Hey guys, welcome to the first episode in my survival redstone series where we're going to take a look at some useful contraptions that you can build in your survival worlds right now. We're currently in my redstone testing world, as you can see, and we're going to have a look at a really simple and really useful multi-story elevator design. So I came up with this design a few months ago when I was looking through YouTube to try and find a design for a multi-story elevator that I could put into my survival multiplayer world. I found that a lot of the designs that were available on YouTube were really complicated flying machine-based designs that would have been really expensive and taken a long time to build in my survival world. Furthermore, they were really bulky and wouldn't have fit into the building that I had in mind for them. As such, I came up with this contraption here that you can see, which is quite compact and fit easily into my existing builds. I'm first going to give a brief demonstration of how this all works, and then we're going to jump around the back and have a look at some of the redstone, and then I'm going to do a block by block tutorial so you guys can build this in your own survival worlds. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So this is the control panel over here. We have a dial which we can use to select the floor we want to go to, and then we simply press the button, door opens, and the elevator up to that floor. If we hop back down again, we can change the floor, press the button again, and now it'll take us to the new floor we selected. This control panel is completely optional and you can do it however you want. I've just built this up for demonstration purposes. However, in my own survival multiplayer world, I've built up a keycard design so only the people with the appropriate keycard can get to any given floor. So let's jump around the back and have a look at the redstone. You can see that it's all been color coordinated. That's just to make it easier for you guys to understand. Over here in pink we have a pulse extender. What that does is it lengthens the signal coming from the button at the front, meaning that the door at the front stays open. The next component is this red coder over here. Now a lot of you guys might not be familiar with what a red coder is, so I'm going to jump over here and we're going to have a look at this example red coder so we can see how it works. As you guys may or may not know, redstone dust can have a signal strength from 1 to 15, and we can use an item frame and a comparator to influence that signal strength. So if we have it facing up the way, we have a signal strength of 1, and then if we turn that all the way around, we can increase that all the way up to 8. What this red coder does is it takes the signal strength from the item frame and it converts it into a redstone torch signal. So for every unique signal strength, we'll have a unique torch being switched on. So if we switch that to 1, we see the first torch goes on, to 2, second torch, and so on and so forth. This means we can have a maximum of 8 floors with this design. However, you can use different designs if you want to increase the number of floors. The next component I want to talk about is this signal tower over here. This is simply a collection of redstone torch towers which carry the signal up from the red coder to the appropriate floor. Finally, we have the elevator shaft itself, which is not so easy to see here, so I've built up a demonstration version over here. So the way that this works is when a redstone signal is applied to this block here, it pushes the back wall out, and this stops the player going any higher than this floor. When this is retracted again, the source blocks on either side fill in this water again. This is really important because if we didn't have these source blocks here, what would happen is that we would end up with an air block here and then flowing water, which would break our bubble elevator. Another feature worth noting is this stair block here. The reason that this is here is to prevent players from getting out earlier than the floor that they've selected. If they try to do so, what will happen is they'll get caught in this crevice here because they'll be being pushed up by the water elevator over here, and they won't be able to get out. So that pretty much wraps things up from a technical standpoint. However, practically speaking, you need to make sure that you have the space for this in your build. So this is a little floor plan over here. The black and yellow area represents the actual signal tower and the elevator shaft itself. So that's sort of the minimum size that you need to provide. And the grey and white areas and the black and blue areas represent the red coder and the pulse extender. Now it's quite possible for you to build these underground. In fact, that's what I've done in my own survival world. And that means that you only really need this black and yellow space above ground. As you can see, it's quite compact and should easily fit into an existing build. So for those of you wanting to build this, these are the materials that you need. And I'm now going to do a block by block tutorial, and I'll try and point out any important things that you need to consider while building it. So you're going to want to start off by building up the elevator shaft so you have an idea of where your floors are going to be, and that'll help you when you're building the rest of the redstone stuff. It's worth noting that you can place your floors wherever you want, so you can have as big or small a distance between them as you fancy. So this is what your elevator shaft should look like once you've built it up without any of the redstone around the back. The next thing we're going to want to do is put the pistons in place. Once we've done that, we want to build up the dial and the red coder. Now let's give it a quick test to make sure that it's working. That looks pretty good. However, it looks like we've got some flashing redstone torches when we turn it back from position 8 to position 1. So the way that we fix that is we turn these repeaters up to 2 ticks. And that completely eliminates any flashing. This is quite important because if you don't do this, it can actually break the elevator design completely. So the next thing we want to do is to build up the signal tower. A quick tip for building this up is to make sure that when you're building up the signal tower going up to a given floor, that you've got that floor selected on the dial, and that way you know that you have the correct signal coming out at the top when the piston extends. So you can see, because I've selected floor 1 on the dial, this torch is switched on and this piston has extended. Now sometimes what will happen is you'll get a little bit out of sync like we see here, and you can fix that by just removing this block and replacing it with a redstone dust. So this is something we want to avoid, where we have a redstone torch next to some redstone dust, as what can happen is that it can power this piston here accidentally. And in this case we've actually ended up spitting out this block, so we just want to replace that and remove that redstone torch. This is an example of where we've selected the correct floor, but the piston hasn't extended. So we know we need to invert this signal here. This is easily done by just placing a block here and removing that torch and placing some redstone dust here. The exact way that you build up this signal tower is pretty much up to you. You just need to make sure that you don't have any crossed wires. So let's give this a quick test to make sure it's working. That's floor 1. Floor 2. And for floor 3. Now this is actually spam proof, so we can turn this as much as we want and it's not going to break anything. I'm not going to build up the pulse extender here because it's pretty much an optional component and doesn't need to be included in the build. Plus it's quite easy to do however you want to do it. The next step is filling this all up with water. So there's various ways you can do this. If you have access to ice, you can fill up the entire water column with ice and then go to the top and start breaking it one by hand. Alternatively, you can use a water bucket and you can go up from the bottom and you can start filling it like this. And the soul sand will shoot you up the way. Now you need to make sure that you've not got a floor selected. And then when you get to an intersection like this, you want to fill in these two blocks. And it's really up to you whether you want to fill in these two blocks or not. If you do, it's going to push you all the way up to the ceiling. So that's pretty much it. Really straightforward. Let's give it a quick test to make sure everything's working properly. Fantastic. And let's go to floor 3. Perfect. So that's all for this video. Thank you guys for watching. And if you enjoyed it, please like, share and subscribe. And if you have any suggestions what you'd like to see in future videos, please let me know in the comments section. Bye bye.